start and go down the line, just say your name and what film you worked on?
Nope, sure. So,
All eyes go to you.
Pablo Velez, and I worked on Adjustment of Status, and I went in quarantine with you.
I'm Jesse Reyes, and I edited the 2 films that he just said.
My name is Madison Elliott, and my dance film is Empty Vessel.
Awesome. And what, how did you kind of come up with the idea for your film?
Oh goodness. It started by just hearing a piece of music, and it was like this light bulb. I came up with the idea. I was letting it marinate in my brain for a few months, and then finally I had a friend who helped really encourage me to actually create it. But yeah.
It's so beautiful. Did you, and it kind of makes a statement about loneliness, about alcoholism, like,
Yeah.
was that all part of your intention?
Well, when I first heard the piece of music, it's created by Hobo Johnson. The piece is entitled February 15th. So it's supposed to be like a heartbroken romance, like, oh, I'm gonna be alone forever, like Valentine's. But when I originally heard it, I heard of just like loneliness, which is a very, very universal feeling. We've all felt lonely at multiple different stages of our lives. To create a character that is feeling loneliness, but in an like over-exaggerated and toxic like state. I don't know. I feel most vulnerable when I'm drunk and creating, so I wanted to. That might be a little too much to say in panel. But.
So like yes, drunk and creating is
Yeah, and just being lonely.
yes,
Yeah.
beautifully done.
Thanks.
And so how did you guys get the idea?
There was the Adjustment of Status movie was based on something that Pablo had gone through, so if you want to tell the story of how that came to be.
Yeah, so I'm an actual immigration attorney, and I had a couple interview before an officer, and the officer asked a question, which was, what do you like least about him, which was something that I'd never heard in over a decade. So I thought that was really interesting, and I had an entire 20 minutes worth of transcript, because I transcribe all of what's said during an interview. So I basically went back to my office and I wrote it in script format, and I edited quite a bit. I built a team around it, and that's how it came about.
So how did you know script format? Like, had you studied it? Did you like Google it? Like, how did you?
I've always been interested in screenwriting, so I actually took a course in 2013, and then I just followed it on my own, and I've always been passionate about it. And Jesse helped me, kind of give me that kick to actually make it happen. So.
I love it. And I also, my husband's an immigrant, and we went through that whole process, and it wasn't fun. So I appreciated the film on that level. And I want to quarantine with you. How did that come about?
So my wife was about 9 months pregnant at the time, during the beginning of the pandemic, and for whatever reason I had that Hootie and the Blowfish song stuck in my head, so I was like playing with it in quarantine and that idea, and then I just went back and forth with it a bit and created the parody. And my co-writer and I, we actually applied for the copyright because we didn't want to ruffle any feathers. So that's how that came about, and then we found 2 actors who were actually a married couple, so they could shoot together, and everyone else worked at a distance, and it was all iPhones, and one of our actors is actually sitting there right now.
That's amazing. So what is your process like when you get started? You know, when you started to get the idea down, like, is it a lookbook? Is it a shot list? Like, what's your first step in kind of an outline? Like, what do you do to get started in the filmmaking process? I assume for you it was the script, maybe?
For me, it was a script. It was that idea, and just in general, I really find those interviews fascinating because it's someone subjectively deciding whether you're a legitimate married couple or not. What does that even mean? Like, how do you judge someone's relationship, right? So that was really interesting, but usually when I come up with any ideas or concepts, it's usually the one sort of burning moment that guides everything, and then I build out. So that might be the beginning, the middle, the end, and I just build out from wherever I can start.
And for the quarantine video, Pablo was like, hey, I really want to work on this thing. Can we get footage from people at home and actually send it over and make a short out of it? And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we had people that were like super on board, and they, you know, I don't know if we actually had a shot list for that, right? Like, it was just scenes that were written in the script according to the song.
Right, no.
So they did a great job of like interpreting that and like giving me interesting things to work with when I put it together. So I think it like, you know, it's like it was like a fun thing in a time when like things couldn't really be fun.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, it was like something for us to like be busy and work on. It was literally the beginning of lockdown when we started this, so. It was because of lockdown, it's about lockdown, so it was like very, very raw for us. And it was cool to like work on something again, because I hadn't, you know, everything kind of stopped.
Yeah, I mean, over the past 2 years that we've had quarantine films, a lot of them have been almost horror films. So it's nice to kind of get ones that aren't, you know? Because you know, especially last year, we had, like, they easily could have been in the horror category. So, yeah, it's interesting to see the different interpretations of it. And what was your process to get started?
This is the first dance film that I've ever made. So I graduated from college, 2020, class of COVID,
Yeah.
like so many.
So did you like have your graduation now? Because I know some people who
No,
are
our school was weird. They just said, here's a PowerPoint, here's your graduation, goodbye. No, like seriously, it was. Not that we're bitter or anything.
Okay, no, I know people who graduated 2020 who literally
Yeah,
are
and then they
back,
went
like,
back.
right now having a ceremony, which I was like,
I don't
okay.
know. I mean, at this point, personally, I'm a little over it. Like, let's just move on. Anyways, that's besides the point. But this was the first thing I created after graduation. And so I don't really have a method, and not even close. I feel like for me, the whole process is just trusting yourself. And when I first came up with the idea of Empty Vessel, I was like, this is kind of shit. Like, I don't want to tell anyone about it. So I literally did it for a few months. And then I told my friend, they really encouraged it and encouraged me. So what I'm realizing at the beginning of every process is, like, nothing's precious, but everything has value. So what are you, as a human, as an artist, as a creative, what draws you and what's going to propel you forward for whatever that process is versus the product. This is also speaking from a dancer, not a filmmaker. So when it comes to shot lists and technology and lighting and all of that stuff, I have zero knowledge, and that's when I go to my collaborators. So also, I think it's so beautiful that you guys are sitting up here together, and I wish I had my partner up here with me, because it's not just me.
Right.
So it's, you know, you have the idea, you do it.
Right, yes, I think we've heard that a lot today.
Yeah.
Like, what's your advice? Just do it.
Just do it. Fuck it.
It's okay.
Okay, that's awesome.
No minors. Well, yeah, no, they're not minors. So what was your favorite part of doing it, your least favorite part of doing it?
My favorite part of doing it was doing it. Is that ridiculous?
No.
It's just like, still to this day, it brings me so much joy. And then you said the worst part?
Your least favorite. yeah.
Least favorite, honestly, my least favorite was sharing it at the very beginning. I was totally content with this being something in my back pocket, not sharing with the world ever.
Totally.
But then, I don't know, pressure from life and social media, it's like, oh, post it on the gram. Okay, here we go. So that first day of sharing it, my roommates can vouch, I was not the happiest of humans.
I would have liked taken it down and put it back up.
Yeah, it was, and
I don't know.
Yeah, it was,
Put it, yeah.
and it meant so much to me that at that point I really didn't care what others think. But I mean, that's also, everyone cares what others think anyways. That's besides the point. Yeah, I'm rambling.
No, you're not. I'm following.
Okay, that's good.
How about you, Jesse?
What I liked the most and the least. So what I liked the most about Adjustment of Status was how professional the crew was when they sort of had all of the things ready for me to be handed over to me. They made everything, like every shot list I had, everything was broken down. So like I was so happy to like just have the map in front of me when I was putting it together. And what I liked the least about it was we had just started post-production right when lockdown, so we got lucky, right? We finished the shooting before everything got shut down. And editing with Pablo in the edit room is a lot better to sit and be like, we like this, does this work, how does this feel, do we like this, how do we change it? And then we lost that when things got locked down, because we just were like not gonna hang out together in the same room anymore. So edits became like Zoom sessions, which are like not necessarily bad, but very different. It's like a very,
It's an adjustment.
it takes so much like, it adds so much like space. It's like, hey, look at this, and I have to sort of wait to get feedback. Whereas like if you're sitting in a room together, you can get so much more work done. And it's like, we had to adapt to that. Like our process just completely got flipped upside down. But you know, that's just the way things are now. Like everything I do now is from home, so.
Yeah. Do you have
Everything.
Framio?
What's that?
It's like it allows you to kind of, it's like a Zoom, but it's made specifically for editing and.
Oh, I'll check that out.
Yeah. it's-
Frame.io?
I've heard of, I haven't used it, but I have friends who edit professionally.
Yeah, it's better, sounds better than Zoom.
Yeah.
Anything says
Um,
Yeah.
What was your favorite and least favorite?
My favorite part was arriving to the story that we were going to shoot. So I was just involved in the production in terms of watching and, you know, okaying like different changes in dialogue and things like that. But coming up with a story, and originally we had written it as a sketch comedy. And then when this crew that we worked with that's based in Nashville, but they've all spent some time and still go back and forth to New York, they wanted to jump on the project. They were like, you know, we like this, but we'd love to develop more of a story out of it, have an arc, have some character arc, and do that. So I was like, oh, so you want me to sort of page one rewrite it? Okay. So that was a challenge to me, and all of a sudden I had to come up with some backstory for these characters and sort of flip the perspective, and it was a fun challenge. I really enjoyed doing that. And then worst part, like Jesse was mentioning, is we're so used to sitting together when editing work that losing that was really uncomfortable. We've adjusted, and you know, it's just, I guess, the way things are going to be for a little while, so that's fine, but definitely not my favorite.
And if you could give a piece of advice to someone starting their own first film, if you will, or their own for the first time, what would your piece of advice be based on what you just
Oh, God. Advice for others. I still need to take my own advice, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's,
yeah, trust yourself, surround yourself by good people. There are no bad ideas. The moment you don't do something, you don't even give it a chance to live. So just, first thing you do, just try it. Yeah.
Let's see.
from the editing point of view.
I would say don't stop and take risks. Because like once you stop, it's really hard to get back on. Like projects, collaborating, meeting people, like it's just this like ball that has to keep rolling and getting steam, and my advice is just keep marching forward.